All right, I think it's a good time to start getting into the introductions here, and then I'll share screen so we can see what Binghamton looks like in this virtual world. I'll start quickly with my colleague here from the admissions office. Doug, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Douglas Harrington. I am one of the admissions counselors here for Binghamton University. This is my fourth year now in admissions after I did graduate from Binghamton. I am a Binghamton alum. I did graduate with my bachelor's and master's degrees in business administration in 2016 and 2017. So really excited for you to tune in this morning. Really happy to be here and help answer any questions that anyone may have. You can certainly feel free to use the Q&A functionality at the bottom of your screen if you do have any questions for us that we'll be certainly happy to answer. So again, thanks so much for joining, and I hope you do enjoy the session this morning.
Thanks a lot, Doug. And yes, I know he'll be on the back end answering a lot of questions. We'll answer as many as we can live at the end too through that Q&A box, but we want you also to feel comfortable. You can chat with us as the panelists or hosts if there's something that you have to put out there, a question or a thought you have, and we'll get into some of this. My name is Craig Broccoli. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions here at Binghamton University, which is it's a lovely fall day, of course. I'm not always on campus. Actually, I'm based in New York City for Binghamton University. So I spend my time in the lower part of New York mostly, working with our students coming from, yes, New York City, and the surrounding Metro New York area, but from all other parts of this world. I spent some time in China with Binghamton, across New England. Like Doug had mentioned, I also went to Binghamton University as an undergrad in our engineering college and in business for graduate school. Actually, I lived on campus all 5 years of my academic student life, for some of those, 3 of those years as an RA in 2 different communities. So I love the residential life aspects, and actually I'm really happy that we're here discussing some of these nuances that I don't remember even being able to hear when I was a high school student. So you're all lucky tuning in today that we can go and dive deeper into some of this. So I'll go down the line and let our experts just quickly introduce themselves. You'll hear more from them as we get into the communities. But first up, Ms. Dana Stewart.
Hi, everybody. It is wonderful to meet with you today about something that we are so passionate about and are excited to share with you. I am an Italian professor. I teach Italian and medieval studies and sometimes rock and roll. Talk a little bit more about that in a bit. I am the collegiate professor of both Mountain View and Hinman. So I'll be speaking with you about both of those today.
Yeah, and exactly, I should have started with this. These are all of our experts, which are also called collegiate professors, which is that's getting into the more unique aspect here at Binghamton. So Professor Kim Jousey, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Jousey. I'm a professor in the School of Management, focusing on organizational behavior and leadership. And I'm the collegiate professor of the Dickinson community. And I'm super excited to tell you about the unique aspects and learning opportunities we have around entrepreneurship and research and all kinds of cool things in Dickinson.
Thank you. And then we have Professor Mark Reisinger.
Hi, everybody. Awesome to meet you all. Very excited to be able to tell you about Hinman College, where I am the collegiate professor. I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Geography, and I think I have lots of very interesting opportunities to talk to you about today.
Perfect. And then we have also Professor Steve Ortiz.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all here. My name is Steve Ortiz. I am a history faculty member, and I am the collegiate professor of College in the Woods, which I have been doing now for about 5 years. Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, actually, I'm going to share my screen right now and bring up a little bit more of a visual so we can get into what Binghamton looks and feels like. But Steve, if you just stay on, because I know we've talked a bit before about some of the values of what it means to live in a residential college setting. So Binghamton, just to put into a larger context, we're a public Ivy, we're a mid-sized public research institution and R1 research institution these days. We're a school with a lot of big resources and 14,000 undergrads, about 4,000 or so graduate students. So even though defined as a mid-sized school, we're big for a mid-sized institution. And I like to tell students this all the time. You're never going to run out of people to meet. There's always new interactions and connections to make. And those of you may have tuned into it, the earlier session on residential life at large. One of the things that we're super passionate about at Binghamton is allowing our students to find their fit, find it quickly. Residential life is one of those ways of doing it. These smaller communities essentially give you that small college feel within a larger institution. But if we can get into some of the more nuanced pieces here today, I think this would benefit you all. Now, the learning communities themselves, they are giving you an option within our 6 different residential communities, primarily for our first year, second year, third year students. The 5 residential communities you'll hear most often, we have College in the Woods, we have Newing College, we have Hinman College, we have Dickinson Community and Mountain View College. These are giving you these little smaller opportunities to be a part of a smaller collective and explore a bit. We have students across all areas of study in these communities, just to explain this from a higher level. But you have this opportunity if you want to live on a floor with other students who have similar passions and interests and maybe are thinking about how they can apply some even solutions into the world where you notice there are some problems. Learning communities give you this opportunity. So Steve, if you don't mind, you want to just, from your perspective, talk a little bit about the value of the learning communities?
Sure. So first of all, one of the distinctive features of Binghamton University's residential communities is that all the collegiate professors are tasked with integrating academics into the living experience. And so one of the, again, really different ways that we approach residential life at Binghamton is to not separate academic interest and living spaces, that they are integrated in all kinds of unique and exciting ways. And you'll hear it from all of the collegiate professors about what they do in their communities to bring academic value into those living spaces. That's a kind of big level here. Now, there's also kind of a more formal understanding of what a learning community is, the way we more formally define it. And those are special living spaces within those residential communities, kind of little subsets of the learning community, of the residential communities, and where students with a shared academic or other interest live together on a floor or a wing, and they have a number of ways of doing this in terms of taking classes together. So you were living together, you were taking classes together, and there's a kind of thematic architecture to it that students kind of apply to. And so what are the values of being in those types of learning communities? They're really extensive. They start with academic values, that one of the values of a learning community is that you get access to professors right away who understand what your interests are, and they're sharing with you the richness of all the university life in your first semester, in which you have people coming to you and talking about all the things that you can do throughout your academic career. And so academically, it's amazing. You're around people who have similar interests to you. So there's people around you, you're talking, you're learning socially. Socially is the other kind of big value, that because you are taking classes together, because you have shared interest, and because you were in shared living spaces, it is a real fast way to make close friendship networks immediately upon setting foot on campus. And because you're kind of already brought in to that, often over the summer, people are already connecting and working and making those relationships last quite a bit. And then final value is that there are a lot of extracurricular and kind of civic and community engagement aspects to the learning communities that can make your freshman year really, really valuable and really hone in on some of the things that you're most interested in and most passionate about. You can really do that at the academic level, socially, and at the extracurricular and co-curricular level as well. So there's a terrific value to learning communities. And I'll pause it there, and Craig, I'll just, as a segue, move into the ones at College in the Woods so that I can just keep the floor for a moment.
Sure.
So College in the Woods, we have 3 learning communities: Politics, Law, and Society, which is in its 5th year; International Relations and Cultural Exchange, which is in its 4th year; and the brand new Environmental Action and Studies learning communities that has just started this year. The image there you see is from our welcome reception. This is from last year, so it was just the Politics, Law, and Society and International Relations and Cultural Exchange communities. They share space in Seneca Hall. They take classes with me, special topical courses that change every fall semester. For example, this semester I'm teaching a course on U.S. presidential elections for the PLS group, and I'm teaching a course on the origins of humanitarianism for the international relations group. And those classes are a way to work together, to work with me, and I bring all kinds of people to meet with them along the way. So that you have these classes together. And again, they also take other classes, and it varies from community to community which classes they take. But I want to make sure that one thing that you don't have to major in environmental studies to be in the environmental action and studies learning community. You don't have to be a pre-law person to be in politics, law, and society, nor do you have to be like a political science or anthropology major to be in international relations and cultural exchange. Granted, a lot of our students do want to major in those things, but you can just have a strong interest in it. You might be an engineering student who's just interested in international relations, or you might be a computer science student who's interested in politics a great deal and want to learn more about that around people who are interested in that. All those opportunities are open to you, so these are not bound by a major or a course of study, and they just present material and the unique opportunities this university offers, and then says, go for it, live together, learn together, and have fun together. And that's what we do in College in the Woods, and I'm happy to answer any questions about those communities as we move forward. There's a couple images here also. So on the left, we took the Politics, Law, and Society International Relations one, took a field trip to the Franklin D. Roosevelt Home and Library in the Eleanor Roosevelt Valkill. And you see them with the statues there of Franklin and Eleanor. We went into the home and had a wonderful late spring afternoon, exploring the grounds, exploring the museum, and just really having a rich opportunity to meet one another. This images on the right are from the Environmental Action and Studies learning community, in which they have this fall taken to every other Sunday doing a hike into the nature preserve, where they also pick up trash. There was a bad kind of scene where there was a trash found in the nature preserve after one holiday weekend, and they just went out there the next Sunday and they started picking up trash. And it's one of the things they're very passionate about. And while there are some environmental studies people in that group, many are biology, biochemistry, there's all kinds of majors in that group. So that's what we do in College in the Woods. And again, I'm looking forward to possibly answering some of your questions. This is College in the Woods just about this time of year with the trees. They're a little bit more yellow than that now, but we're just about right there. Again, I look forward to taking your questions down the road. I'll let my colleagues take it from there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. That was an excellent little introduction to what College in the Woods has, and it looks like a wide array of offerings when it comes to the learning community pieces here. Now, one of our biggest communities, and frankly our oldest communities in terms of traditions and opportunities, is Dickinson community. So I think this is a good opportunity now if we have Kim Jousey come back with us and talk a little bit about this.
Great. Thanks so much, Craig. And thanks, Steve, for that overview. That's going to be hard to beat. But I'd love to tell you all about Dickinson. The Dickinson community is, as Craig said, the oldest community with the newest buildings. So it was rebuilt. And it's also the largest community on campus. So we have a lot going on in Dickinson. The buildings are beautiful, but the activities are even better. So we have two main learning communities, one called CORE, which is the computers and robots and engineering, and the entrepreneurship learning community. And those are formalized, fully intact, living on the floor, as Steve described, communities, and I'll tell you a little more about those. But we also have something that's very unique. It's kind of a grassroots learning community called DIRT, which is the Dickinson research team. So if you've ever wanted to do research and wanted to find out what it's all about, you have the opportunity to join. Everybody's welcome. And we have a Dickinson specific class as well, which is an introduction to experimental research that I'm going to tell you about. And real quickly before we move to the next slide, Craig, I want to share the ways in which we learn, and I think you'll hear this and see this throughout all of our slides. We learn in a variety of ways. So for example, you see there on the far right, we learned about diversity, equity, and justice through an African drumming session. with a world famous drumming for justice performer Nana Amin. And we also learned through movies. So you can see here to the left, that's a movie night that we had, again, looking more at themes of diversity, unity, and justice. So it's not just what we learn, it's the way in which we learn that I think is super unique to Binghamton. And with all of us and our special sauce that we put on it, it's done a little differently in each community. All right, so DIRT, I just want to share real quickly about DIRT. As I said, it's the only one of its kind in the country where students can do research right in the learning community. So we've done over almost 14,000 hours of research so far and had almost 500 undergrad researchers. About 100 plus students come every year to learn everything related to research that's completely transferable across fields. So it's really great. There's small groups. There's a great team of graduate TAs that help. And the skills are, again, applicable to any field in which you want to go on and do research. And the students are from all different buildings and backgrounds. So it's a really wonderful experience where you can learn in small groups with great mentors and actually, next slide, please, Craig, actually produce research that's going to go to national level conferences. So you'll see here on the left, that's our DIRT room down in the bottom corner, which for now it's moved to Zoom. Or the tent outside, but we have taken, students have had their research presented at conferences in San Francisco, Boston, Washington, DC, Chicago, and now they're even starting to win awards for research fellowships. So right there in the middle, you can see Jillian and Courtney, who both just won the Ellen Kashik Institute for Women and Girls, and for their research for this whole year on diversity and gender. So it's a really great experience. We have so much fun. And in addition, we also have what we call research wraps, where we host professors from all different fields, and they share, the students interview them, so you learn a whole variety of skills, but we get their research down to the translatable level where people can actually understand what it's about and why we should be really proud to be at Binghamton. So those have been a big success as well. Next slide, please, Craig. Thank you. One of the more formalized learning communities is the entrepreneurship learning community. And if you've ever wanted to change the world, start a company, and be with like-minded other individuals doing that, it's a great community to be a part of. We always take field trips to New York City, to different businesses in town. We're part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem here at Binghamton, which is fantastic. You can see it up at the top there in the middle, the Kaufman Southern Tier Incubator. And the idea is that students come in, live in the ELC, start their idea, take a great entrepreneurship class with an alum, Rachel Sewartz. And I love this quote from Ellen, who says, most people graduate college with a degree. The ELCers graduate with a company and a degree, of course, but they have a company as well. And so we've had a lot of great success. We have a really good time with that group. And I think they get a lot of energy off of each other, and from the different alumni and entrepreneurs that they interact with. Next slide, Craig. And they work very closely with our other learning community, which is CORE, the computers and robotics and engineering. And it's very different than the one Dana's going to tell you about in terms of the engineering one they have in Mountain View. This one really focuses on the computer side of things and the coding and the robotics. And they do a lot of hackathons. They work with the ELC students a lot to do the coding of the different apps and things. And they work closely with some computer science professors as well. And so that's CORE, Computers and Robots and Engineering. And you can go right to their website at core.binghamton.edu. Next one. So one quick other way we learn is through our signature theme, which is sustainability, and very much in partnership with the Environmental Studies Department, but we do things community-wide. We've made maple syrup together, which was really awesome experience. So we got to have a pancake dinner to eat that syrup. And currently right now, every year we do the Project Green Challenge. And that is a fantastic global challenge where students get together and form teams, and every single day by midnight they have a task they have to do and turn back in. And they're trying to be one of 4 teams to go out to San Francisco at the end of the year. So that's really fantastic month of October that we spend together. Next slide. We also really love to learn out in the community through a town and gown kind of partnerships, where you heard Steve talk about field trips. We take field trips as well, not just from the learning communities, but as a community. Last year, we went out to a local corn maze and learned all about how they grow the corn and create these mazes. And we just had a really fantastic time. We do a lot of learning on the buses and then outside when we're having fun as well. So this is just some more pictures of this fall, except for the volleyball one, as you can tell by no masks. But we had a great summer of our first year student common read program. You can see the bulletin board down there, but we had class in the tents. And this is still where Dirt has been having sessions, is in the tents as well. So students learn not only in a classroom, but also outside. As you see, another movie night, the tents. They hang out on our very famous object there that's right in the middle of Dickinson, and also on our swing sets, which I need to add a picture of. But you can see more drumming, more movies. We like to play. Next slide. Yeah, and here's just some more pictures. They learn together with their RAs. There's a community builder out there with the RAs in the upper left. They play volleyball, they play spike ball, and again, like to just hang out and try different activities. So that's it for Dickinson. If you have questions, make sure you let me know, please.
Yeah, and definitely, and if anything resonates with you and you want to share your thoughts or things that you're thinking about, certainly you can throw it in the chat, or you can, of course, questions that you have, bring it up, and we're going to answer, again, as many as we can live at the end as we go back across campus, which is not that far away, but on the other side of our residential life is Hinman College. And I think it's an opportunity now we can dive a little deeper into what now Hinman has to offer.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'll just remind you, my name is Dana, although I guess you can see that on the Zoom. One benefit of Zooming, right? You can always see everybody's name. Hinman has the public service learning community and has sort of an overall theme of public service. You don't have to be into public service to live in Hinman, but if you are, it's a great place to be. There's a community-wide theme of alive, achieving leadership and volunteer experiences, and there are lots of really cool, exciting, interesting opportunities for volunteering and getting more involved with the community, with the local community. Hinman also has a production company that puts on shows on a regular basis. That's a really, it's very much student run. So if you're interested in theater but don't want to major or minor in it, but you still want to keep in touch with it, Hinman is a great place to be for that. There's also the Hinman Spirit Arts magazine that is published every year with poetry and art and stories and all kinds of things submitted by Hinman students, also student run. So, and then HCC, every community has its own college council, and they are all wonderful ways for you to get involved with wherever you live. They're very active. And the Hinman College Council is particularly active and fun, I would say. They have weekly meetings. They're probably some of the best attended meetings on campus because everybody wants to go and see what they're going to do. They're really fun. They've been on Zoom this year, of course. They've had dress up themes every week, and it's a lot of fun, as well as a great opportunity for you to develop your leadership skills. There are a lot of positions that you can run for, several within each building, and then community-wide as well. And Hinman Student Fellows, I just wanted to mention this just to give you a sense. Hinman Student Fellows are students who no longer live in Hinman, who have moved off campus, but who love it so much that they still want to stay involved. And I just wanted to bring this up because I think it speaks to what a wonderful community our communities create for students. It really feels like a place where you belong and where you make some of your best friends. And it's a really unique opportunity I know it was mentioned, Craig mentioned it before, but to really have that small college feel within a big university. Okay, next slide. So I just wanted to read the quote on the first one, catch the Hinman spirit. Students who are involved in extracurriculars are the happiest students on campus and also tend to be the most successful in the classroom. This has been shown by a lot of research. And so, you know, it's really not just your classes that are going to be forming you and forming your experience. It will be the extracurricular things that you pursue, such as the learning communities and also just the things that are available in each community, whether or not you're a part of a specific learning community. Sorry, just a little bit more. And then there's a picture of the Hinman Production Company, one of their productions. And then the next picture is the public service learning community. This is a recent one. So even with COVID, they're going out in the community. This is working with a community organization group in Binghamton, helping to train community advocates. So yeah, and then on the lower left they do a special day of service for Martin Luther King Day each year. And this was the poverty simulation. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It was it's a really interesting and eye-opening experience that, again, you don't have to be part of the learning community to take part of, but it's just part of sort of Hinman's overall theme of service. And then in the lower right, I just wanted to put that in there. That's Dorm Wars. It's all virtual this year, but it is still really fun. Every Saturday, people from across Hinman get together and participate in various activities. And yeah, there's just a lot of great spirit and fun to be had.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get the sense that many of our students tuning in are probably realizing, wow, I can fit in almost any community, because this overlaps a lot into that Binghamton student spirit. And you have these opportunities within your communities to find that unique fit that you may bring to Binghamton University, those talents and interests that you have. You know, you're looking at schools now to find where can you apply what you already know and maybe what you're passionate about, or maybe find the platform to dive a little deeper. So I'm glad we got through 3 and there's still more to come, right? So we'll go right back across campus to right next to Dickinson to hear about Newing College now.
Well, I have to unmute first. So Newing College, yeah. So I've been in Newing College since 2012. So I'm in my 9th year, I guess, finishing up my 9th year. And prior to that, I was the collegiate professor in the apartment communities. I've actually been in this role for about 11 or 12 years, I believe. Yeah, longest serving now, I think, on campus. Wow, it's hard to believe. Anyway, so let me talk about Newing College. I'm a geographer, right? So I'm really interested in global issues and so forth. So our overarching theme in Newing College is global engagement. And you might think, well, just look at international things. And the answer to that is no. We define global engagement very broadly in the community. Yes, international plays a role in it. I lead study abroad programs. I've led study abroad programs to Africa, to China. I teach internationally. I've been teaching internationally for about 10 years now. I've involved some of my residents in Newing with some of my courses that I'm able to teach in China and other countries. So I've been very fortunate in that sense. But when we talk about global engagement, what we're really talking about is making sure everybody in our community feels welcome, feels a part of the community, feels valued in the community. And, you know, we have a very diverse community. I mean, it's extremely diverse, which all the communities are really. But we do house a lot of international students in Newing. We have Delaware Hall, which is one of our break halls. And we really try to make them feel comfortable and feel welcome in the United States. But like I said, we really want everybody in our community to feel welcome, feel valued, feel that they're part of the community. So our global engagement actually, overarching theme, actually ties in with our community values, which you can see I have COIN, which stands for stability, ownership, inclusion, and knowing pride. And so that's kind of the values that we want to instill in our residents, so that we like to think of ourselves as a very social community. We have, I think, I'm not sure, but we may be the only community that has all corridor style housing. I think some others have partial corridor, partial suites. And I really think that corridor style housing lends itself to sociability, because you walk outside, you walk out your door, walk out the room of your door, and you're in the hallway where everybody else is walking out. And so you can't but help to meet people in the hallway. Most of the time, our residents have their doors open, so people are in and out of the rooms. It's just a really social atmosphere in the community. We only actually have one learning community, and it's not even a learning community that I oversee. It's the Scholars Learning Community. It's a special program at Binghamton University, but all the first-year Scholars students live in the community in Newing. They live in Broome Hall. They live on the second and third floors for the most part. And there's typically over 100 first-year Scholars students that live in the community. And I actually teach a course for the Scholars community, so I'm part of it, but I don't actually oversee it. Some of the courses that we offer, and actually, I think I teach all these courses. Okay. So I teach, the Scholars course I teach is Understanding the World in a Post-Truth Era, which is really, really timely right now. If you follow anything that's going on in the world, right? It's a really timely, it's a great course. I love the course. The students are just amazing with the discussions that we have. And I allow them to pick the discussion topics within reason, of course, right? Within reason. I also teach our first year experience course, Unit 101, What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding. Now, I know all of you in this webinar are way too young to remember where that comes from, but that's actually a song title from the 1970s, Elvis Costello. I see Dana smiling. She probably remembers it, right? Right? Well, it's one of my all-time favorite songs. And so, I'm very, I guess I'm a very peace and nonviolent type of person. So that's why I came up with this course. And one of the great pleasures of being a collegiate professor is that you get to do things that you don't get to do in your department. You get to teach courses, you get to be creative, you get to be innovative, right? And coming up with courses, not just courses, but also programs and other sorts of events. So for example, this evening in Newing, we are having a Black Lives Matter panel. So that should be really interesting. And of course, it's on Zoom. So we'll be doing that this evening. And then the next course I teach in the community, I usually teach in the spring. Again, you can see it's very much a current events type of course, what's going on in the world, hot topics, hot issues, and hot spots. And I've been teaching that. Actually, I started that course when I was up in the apartments community as the collegiate professor up there. I brought it down to Newing with me. Okay, so some photographs that I want to show you. So in Newing, I have what we call Newing Fellows, and these are faculty and staff members from across campus that have associated themselves with the community. At this time, I have about 45 faculty fellows, and like I said, they're from all across campus. And I don't know if you guys recognize this person right here, but this is President Stenger. He is a Newing Fellow. He's been a Newing Fellow ever since he came to the university, so we're very happy to have him. There's you probably can't see them very well, but there's some other faculty members in the background as well. And it's just a really great opportunity for our residents to meet people like President Stenger, meet faculty members from across campus in a very relaxed environment. I host a lunch. It used to be in person, obviously, twice a semester. We rotate them around the different buildings in Newing. And like I said, it's just a great opportunity for our residents to get to meet and chat with in a very relaxed environment, faculty, staff from all across campus. So it's pretty cool. Not quite. Thank you. I want to point out the young lady down here and the young man down here, actually. So speaking of our faculty fellows, one of our fellows actually started a program in Newing called Helping Hand. And what that program was all about was they were making hands using 3D printers, right? Using 3D printers, so that for children, right? Because there's many children who may be missing a hand or whatever, and they don't have money to be able to afford a prosthetic hand. So they were actually making prosthetic hands for children, donating them to children using 3D printers. This photo here actually is a global engagement. So this is actually for Chinese New Year. Okay, this is a dumpling making event, and so we were teaching our residents how to make dumplings, and some of my students from China were actually doing the event, teaching the students, making the filling and all those sorts of things. And you can see they were also making lanterns as well for that event. So those are some of the things that we try to do. In the upper right is Newing College Council. One of the unique things, and some of the others kind of referred to the councils in their communities. Each of our buildings, and this is true, I think, in all the communities, each of our buildings has its own government. They have a hall government, and it's a great opportunity for our first-year students to really get involved because very often first-year students are elected to their hall government. And the hall governments actually have a budget, right? And they can decide what to spend that budget on. They can decide what kind of events they want to see in the hall. And so forth. So it's a great opportunity to get involved as a first-year student. It's a great leadership opportunity. And then we have our kind of NCC, Newing College Council, which is the community-wide government. And this is one of our meetings here, as you can see. And again, they have a pretty substantial budget that they get to spend on all sorts of community activities, community events, things that they think the community needs. That like one year they purchased whiteboards for all the buildings in the lounges. Okay, so things that are useful to students, not just fun events and so forth, but things that can be really useful to our students. The lower right photograph is a course. I don't know how well you can see. I think the young lady's doing a presentation. So this is a course that I teach. It's a geography course, and I have a group of students here at Binghamton University that take the course simultaneously with a group of students in China. And it's pretty unique. It's what we call collaborative online international learning. Okay, so I've been using Zoom to teach long before other people thought they'd ever have to, because I was connecting with my students in China through Zoom. And it's such an amazing opportunity because not only are they taking the course, they're learning together, they also work on projects together. I've created a project where we have maybe 2 or 3 Binghamton students working in a group with 2 or 3 students in China. And then at the end of the semester, so they do this research project on a country of their choice, and then they present it at the end of the semester. They turn in the final paper and so forth. But like I said, this also leads me to lead study abroad programs to China, I've led study abroad programs to Africa and other parts of the world as well. So very globally minded, I guess would be a good way to finish it up.
Thank you, Mark, on that. And yes, now we're really starting to get into some of these particular nuances. And as for those of you on the East Coast, I started to get a little hungry on the dumpling making. So let's move uphill now to Mountain View College. And Professor Dana Stewart, if you want to join us again and talk about what Mountain View College has to offer on the learning front.
Sure. Hi, it's me again, collegiate professor in Mountain View as well. So in Mountain View, we have the engineering learning community. We have Spanish, Italian, and French activities and are developing a new learning community. Hopefully that will be up and running in time for next year, but either way, we will still be doing all of the activities. And then we also have a live music emphasis. We have jam sessions, open mic nights, drum circles, clinics, music festivals, and other live music events, as well as, of course, Univ 101 festivals, fans, and jam bands. So more on that in a minute. Next slide. So the engineering learning community is for first years only, first year engineering students. And there are lots of opportunities for networking. There are social events, common classes, and field trips to the Atom Smasher in Cornell, and also to some of the local engineering firms that are in the Binghamton area. Binghamton has a long history of engineering. And so the engineering students in the learning community get to interact with that as well. Okay, next. Live music. We run jam sessions with the full PA. So if you're a drummer, you just have to show up and it's all set up to play. We also have, a bass and a guitar and some amps, but many people like to bring their own guitars. And open mics, all levels are warmly invited. We have people there who have been performing for many years, and we have people who get up there and it's their very first time ever playing or singing in front of people. It's a really supportive environment and it is so much fun. There's also the University Guitar Club that meets up in Mountain View. We have student-run music festivals, drum circles, as I said. Some of these you can see are inside and some are outside. We have a beautiful amphitheater up in Mountain View that sort of overlooks the whole valley. And so when the weather is nice, that's where we like to do our open mics and jam sessions when possible, otherwise inside. So if you love music and want to continue playing music, or you want to even expand that, Mountain View is a great place to do that. I will stress that all of these events are open to students across campus. So you don't have to live in Mountain View to participate in them. And that's the case with a lot of the things that we've been talking about. You don't have to live in a specific learning community to take part in all of the activities. Some of them are specifically just for the learning community, but many of these are community-wide or even campus-wide, but they're happening in that particular community. So everyone is welcome to come make music and play music in Mountain View, but Mountain View is sort of where it's happening. Okay, next. This is the class that I teach when I'm not teaching Italian. It's our Univ 101 class for first year students on festivals, fans, and jam bands. I love it so much. We study Woodstock and some of the classic festivals in the 60s and 70s, and the classic jam bands, the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers. And then the students have an opportunity to do a research project on a modern day festival and on a modern day jam band. And I would just put in a plug for the Univ 101 classes, whether you take this one or any other one. They're also a really great class. They're not required, but I highly recommend them. They give a great orientation and overview of university life and many aspects of it, as well as some fun topics and material. Okay. Ciao, hola, salut, Mountain View. I am in the Romance Languages department, and we plan a lot of activities in Mountain View. We have cooking nights, we have movie nights, game nights, karaoke nights, coffee and conversation, and more, all kinds of cultural celebrations and activities, the Day of the Dead celebration, Carnival celebration, etc., and increased opportunities to practice your language. If you are studying French, Spanish, and Italian, or if you're a heritage speaker of any of those languages, we want you in Mountain View. And so it's a great way to get extra practice in your language, but also gain extra cultural competency. And again, most of these events are open to the whole community, not just to specific people living in a learning community. Next. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
No, and this is the thing that I think we're all learning. We can find more and more particular pieces of information about each of these communities the more time we spend on this. But I think I'm going to state the obvious here. What you cannot miss is what our collegiate professors bring to this is a ton of passion that likely is part of that spark that fosters a lot of the pride that our students then have with their community. And myself, as somebody who lived in Mountain View College, I look back at these photos, and then I also lived in college in the woods. Loved my time there as a student. But then hearing about what every other community has to offer that I didn't physically live in starts to get me thinking about, wow, you can't really make a wrong choice here. And I know many of you are at the stage of exploring, then applying, and thinking about where you might end up in the future. These communities at Binghamton, particularly when you embed that spirit and the learning aspects, are where we start to really hone in on what Binghamton, I think, does quite well. Yes, we bring in a really talented bunch of students, incredibly academically talented, very driven, very academically curious as well. That's why our students are here at a university. They're looking to explore. They're looking to stretch outside of even their initial area of passion academically. The communities help you find that comfort zone early. And the key here is that you have 4 years, maybe a little longer if you want to get a master's degree, or maybe even a little bit longer than that if you want to stay on and get a PhD. What we're ultimately trying to do here, though, at Binghamton is give you an opportunity to start off in an intimate environment, in an environment where you'll be able to go to whatever community you want, whenever you want, but have that smaller place to call home. Every time I listen to you all speak, I get excited again and want to move back onto campus. Now, I saw some great discussion going on in the chat there, and definitely there are some questions that are coming in.
We would love to have you back, Craig.
I would like to consider that again, and maybe I'll submit my application in there. Try to see if I can be one of the 42,000, right? And this is a good question maybe that we should talk about. Is there a limit to the number of students who live in a learning community? Specifically, this question was on the nursing community, but we can stretch that beyond just that one community. If anybody wants to chime in about sort of maybe the selection process on this, just so we get an idea.
I can start us off on that one, Craig. So there's a limit in that there's a certain number of beds on that specific wing of a building. There's a physical constraint. However, many of us can elasticize that constraint and continue to grow the community if there's enough demand. That being said, we do have to make choices. And I know in ours, there's an application process. And so we have to figure out which is the best fit for people to allocate those beds to. And then if the demand keeps growing, we can extend the community for the following year.
Great. And I'll just add to that I know we love these learning communities. As somebody who studied engineering at Binghamton, I didn't live in the engineering learning community. I had friends who did, and they absolutely loved that. And some students just didn't feel the need to be a part of it. It doesn't exclude you from being a academic on this campus that's really interested in your particular field. So these give you an opportunity, but they're not exclusive in that sense that only a certain student can be a part of that, and that only those students get all the advantages. So I just wanted to give some light to those of you who are still on the fence. You don't have to make any decision on a learning community part right now. Just explore.
Yeah, the vast majority of our students don't live in learning communities. And yet the vast majority of Binghamton students do really well for themselves. They have terrific, deep extracurricular lives. But the learning community students, the ones at least that I've had in mind, all really speak highly of what value it added to their academic and social lives as first-year students, and so they've been really happy with it. And Craig, can I use that as a way to segue into answering another question about the negatives of it? So
Sure.
one of the questions was, are there any drawbacks? So most of the research shows that students benefit socially and they benefit academically from being in learning communities. They also, the research shows that students have a greater connection to the university. They're more civically engaged. There's a whole host of things in which students benefit by being in learning communities. So what are the negatives? The negatives can be for some, they don't want to have that constraint of having to take certain classes. They want every semester to take whatever they want, and they can still this university still explore the topics, but in their own path and without a cohort kind of surrounding them. I was a student. I was kind of that, lone wolf type person. Like I'm going on my way and doing my thing, so I totally understand that. So for someone with that personality, maybe it's not something that will work for you. In terms of a negative, in terms of does it limit you? Absolutely not. So one of the things actually I've found is actually expands, and when our learning community students in College in the Woods always bring this point up, it actually expanded their horizons rather than shortened them or narrowed them. Why? Because on their floor with all these people, they share some common interests. But the person down the way is writing for the Pipe Dream student newspaper. And that student may not have ever had any exposure to that or even thought about it. And next thing you know, they're working over at the Pipe Dream and writing articles with almost an entirely different group of people than the people on their floor. And take that for all, 500 or 600 clubs we have on campus and shoot that out. And people's interest will push people towards other clubs and athletics. One year, the Politics, Law, and Society community, almost all of them started rowing because one of their people started rowing and they got involved in rowing, even though none of them had any experience doing it. And they got into a whole different realm of people by doing that. So in many ways, it actually expands those opportunities to broaden your social network rather than constricting them. And by the way, you're not in like a prison, right? I mean, you can go anywhere on campus and meet with anyone you want, doing anything you want. So just because you're in the learning community doesn't mean that you are, you have like an ankle monitor on or something like that. You can't go past the hall, right?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think just from a geographic standpoint, the communities they're all interconnected in a sense. Like they're kind of in a line around the brain, the main academic core of campus, but they're easily walkable between. Some are directly sharing space amongst each other, but they're little villages, but they're all interconnected in that sense. So I like that subset there, because our collegiate professors, they bring that academic life into the communities. They somewhat, I give you all credit for this. You set the tone in the communities on ways to aspire higher and get beyond just, coming there to take your classes in your major. The students, though, you as a first-year student are going to meet students who are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. You're going to build your own connections in this more intimate environment. And that's definitely an opportunity to expand outside of what you already know and get connected onto what a large campus has to offer. Many resources. Doug, are there any other questions that you saw come through that you want us to touch on?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of which that I certainly thought was a good question, if a student has multiple interests in different LLCs, what would be, maybe a piece of advice that you would give to them that would help them narrow their choice to maybe one, considering they can't live in more than one place? What would be maybe a piece of advice that you would give to help a student narrow it down?
I'll let us open that up. Whoever wants to start with that.
I can start. When people, so the learning communities operate through the residential life sign-up process. So that really starts around April. But one of the things I do in addition to these types of webinars or in-person open houses or what have you, is that if someone has a question about the learning community, I put them in touch with the current students. The current students are the best resources to explain what they've benefited from and what they had thought about when they were in your shoes in the spring, and then what actually materialized in the fall. So if you reach out to me on any of those learning communities, my first step would be to answer whatever questions you have, but then offer you the opportunity to connect with some of our learning community students who are almost always, happy to say, almost always really great and want to share their experiences. They want to continue to build these programs as sustaining, long-term, impactful things, and so they're the best resources to connect. But you would do so through us, and then we can put you in contact with those students.
Right. And yes, you have plenty of time to start just even thinking about this. And frankly, students move between communities all the time. Yes, a lot of the learning communities have somewhat of a first year component or start to them, but there are pathways between our communities throughout your 4 years if you want to live on campus all 4 years. We have students who come in to Binghamton from 100+ countries, all 50 states. A lot, yes, on the East Coast coming right up to Binghamton, many from New York. Some of the best and brightest from New York will end up here at Binghamton University. That diversity and exchange of minds, our communities do an excellent job of helping you not just be at a diverse campus, right? That's step one, but being on an inclusive campus where we encourage you to step outside of that comfort zone or what you're used to for a little bit and develop that networking connection. Then make friends in your first year on campus and live in a community that has a suite style living your sophomore year. And that sort of idea, that freedom to move about and choose and think, something I think Binghamton, I always think back to this, it really sets the tone for your future life, right? Where you can go from there, and that level of comfort you have when you enter the quote unquote real world after college, you're already in it when you're at Binghamton, right? This is not an insulated environment from that respect. Doug, anything else you want to touch on here? Oh, I do see one question here. Go ahead, read it off.
Oh, Kim, were you going to say something?
I can take the dirt question that came up, as well as the fee question. There's two questions there that are great. One is about if there's extra fees to apply to the LLCs. And I know I can speak for the ones in Dickinson. There's no extra fees other than perhaps the $15 bus ticket if we can't find a donor to help with the bus, which we have in the past, but that's for field trip transportation. And other than that, there's no other fees to participate in the learning community. And I think that's the same for all of us, isn't it? Is that the same? Yeah. So we all try to get our learning communities funded through the provost office and the different programs at Binghamton. And then the second question was about DIRT and can students research other topics than the LLCs? They actually do research many other topics. They actually don't research the topics from the LLCs, the learning communities. They research a lot of leadership, diversity and inclusion. Students find data sets and bring them in, and then groups in DIRT will work on them. So for example, now we're working on a data set looking at obesity in children and the parental relationships from schools in Maine that in partnership with the pharmacy school. We have another new data set from an education system. We look at creativity research, leadership research, and diversity research. So they're not actually collecting data from the beginning. They're using data sets that either I have collected or a partner in our research has collected. But beyond that, there's lots of different topics for students to get interested in. I hope that answers your question, Emma. If you have more, just reach out to me directly. That's fine.
I'm so glad that you all were able to jump in today and be here. And I think this is, we have one more question coming through, but I think this is essentially what we're getting at is that when we talk about communities on campus, the involvement that we have from the student to the faculty to the staff side, we care deeply about residential life. So a question came in, are transfer students able to join learning communities? And I'll start with this, and if there's any nuances that you want to touch on. Generally speaking, with a transfer student, we have 30% of our students are transfer students. So we have students that come to Binghamton from all over the world as another college student coming to Binghamton. Maybe it was their path all along, or maybe they discovered, hey, you know what, Binghamton really was the spot for me after their year or two elsewhere. This is a big piece of Binghamton. We have many transfer students. I just want to make that part clear. We have different living opportunities on campus. So we have 6 total communities. Technically, if you break out the apartment communities, it looks like 7 because they operate slightly differently. The apartment communities actually are highly sought after by transfer students, and they're not part of this overarching learning community component, as far as I understand, but they give you an opportunity to come together, especially as upper class students who have some college experience already in many cases. You could live in any of the other 5 communities that we mentioned today. The sort of trajectory is that all first year students live on campus. Most of our sophomore or second year students, probably 50-50 with the juniors. It depends on the year. And then seniors, maybe 30%, maybe 20%, maybe more. It depends on the year. You have options. And with that, the learning communities are really designed to be a starting point. But some of, like, as you could see, the events, the festivities, the activities, the themes of those communities, that's open to all students. So I don't want any of you to feel like it's a one and done type of approach.
Yeah, I accept learning transfer students who have
Same with
1
that.
year of college experience into the CIW learning communities. I don't do those who have 2 because the classes that I offer for the learning community that other departments have granted us access to are all basically for first and second year students. So if you're a transfer student coming into and you're interested in, say, politics, law, and society, if you had 1 year somewhere else, I'd be absolutely happy, and we've had many people who have done that. 2 years, it's rather hard to make that fit with the curricular kind of path of the learning communities for College in the Woods.
Both the ELC and core take transfer students, absolutely, regardless of what year they are.
And in Mountain View, engineering is really focused on first years, but the French, Spanish, and Italian activities that we have are aimed at all 4 years, as well as the music, very much. We have participation, wide participation from people at all grade levels in all of those activities.
As far as global engagement goes, just about all of our events in Newing are focused on some aspect of global engagement, and obviously everybody is welcome to that.
Great. And that's the other big piece here, is that you have access to our passionate collegiate professors as a community member, and even as somebody who may move off campus after living in these communities. That community spirit is fostered throughout. You could meet any Binghamton alum out there in the world, and they will probably talk about the communities they lived in while on campus. That's something that definitely sets the tone from the beginning. So first off, thank you all for joining us today as our community experts, particularly from the learning components here. Thank you, Doug, for answering a lot of those questions and getting us ready to go. For all of you students, I mean, we're excited on the admissions front to read through your applications. And this is that time of year that we really get excited for, because contrary to popular belief, we want to find ways to say yes. We want to find ways and pathways to get you here to campus. Again, whether it's a first year student or a transfer, there's plenty of opportunities to find a path to Binghamton. And this is your time to just tell us more about you. So you're hearing a lot about us, and I think this is good for exploring. Keep asking those questions, especially in this virtual world. There are plenty of opportunities if you want to do a one-on-one Zoom session with us or in a group setting. We'll have more of these events. There will be another round of this open house week type cycle a little later in November. So be on the lookout if you missed some sessions this time around, and there'll be plenty more to come in the future. So stay tuned in, enjoy your weekend now, wherever you are, and let us know when those questions come up. All right. Thank you for coming in, everybody. Good luck.
Everyone have a great day.